This video introduces medieval attitudes toward gender and sexuality. As his prologue indicates, the Miller's Tale concerns a carpenter named John, whose wife Alisoun, spelled alternately with and without a U, cheats on him with a clerk, that is, a university student. The tale is set in Oxford, where the student, who is called Nicholas, studies. Nicholas rents a room in John's house. There is a third character in the tale who likes Alisoun as well. He is a parish clerk, that is, someone who performs various tasks for his local Christian community in Oxford, and his name is Absalom. As my overview of the Miller's Tale may suggest, this narrative is very much centered on a woman, Alisoun, whom every man in the tale desires. Moreover, while I don't want to spoil the plot of this marvelous short story for you, I will let you know that of all the characters in the tale, Alisoun in certain respects is the figure who comes out on top, or to put it another way, she is the only figure who remains unscathed or unharmed by the end of the story. Why would Chaucer have a male pilgrim, the miller, represent a woman in such a favorable light? To begin to answer this question, we need to learn a bit about the attitude toward women in Chaucer's world. Gender epitomizes the dualistic thinking of the Middle Ages. Ideas of what it meant to be a woman versus a man were very much driven by binary thinking. Here is a set of binaries that includes man and woman. As you can see, women, like peasants, were thought of as lesser beings who were aligned with the body and the animal world. Perhaps the most important dualism pertaining to gender in this image is that of active versus passive. During the Middle Ages, being a man was fundamentally about doing. Manliness concerned agency, action. Conversely, being a woman fundamentally involved being passive or having things done to herself rather than doing things on her own. As I've mentioned, these binaries should be understood vertically as well as horizontally. Indeed, the horizontal relationships between categories provided the grounds for their subjugation. In the case of women, because they were considered to be essentially or inherently more connected to the body, and thus were more appetitive, carnal, and controlled by their physical desires, and because men were considered to be essentially or inherently more connected to the head, and thus were more intellectual, spiritual, and controlled by reason. The proper organization of society involved men controlling women. A key piece of quote-unquote evidence for women's intrinsic connection to the body and appetite came from the Bible, with its account of Eve and the apple in the Garden of Eden. Medieval misogynists could effectively say, "You want to know why men must control women? Just look at what happened when the first woman was allowed to do what she wanted. Her unrestrained appetite led to nothing less than the downfall of the entire human race." We see these attitudes about gender in two passages from a medieval text, Isidore of Seville's Etymologies. This was a hugely influential, widely read text that served in a sense as a kind of encyclopedia during the Middle Ages. Here is a section from the Etymologies in which Isidore defines women and men. In the first excerpt, Isidore defines men in terms of their strength and the control they have over women. In the second, Isidore reflects the alignment of femininity with bodily desire and animality. He states here that women are just as lustful as the female members of the animal world. In what follows, I will introduce you to the quote-unquote science behind such a conception of gender during Chaucer's lifetime. Let's begin with medieval scientific theories of reproduction. Those ideas have their roots in ancient works by figures like Aristotle and Galen. So during the Middle Ages, thinkers in Europe believed that when a baby is made, the father and mother have distinct roles. The mother simply provides the raw materials, the stuff, for the fetus. She provides the matter for what will become a baby. The father, in contrast, gives both life and form to the baby. That association of women with mere matter is encoded in the very Latin word for mother, mater. Okay, so far we have covered a few key components of medieval misogyny. The idea that women are passive, the idea that they are linked with animals and the body, and their linkage with mere matter. Let's dig a bit deeper into quote-unquote scientific ideas about women during the Middle Ages. Our starting point is the medieval idea that all matter in the universe, everything from, say, a rock to a dog, a tree, or a human, is made of some combination of the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. In addition, all matter is a mixture of heat and cold, as well as a combination of dryness and wetness. Heat is a super important concept here. For medieval Western thinkers, heat is what brings a body to perfection and allows it to fully develop. Women, according to medieval thinkers, lack heat. In fact, according to medieval Western thinkers, if you found the hottest woman that was ever born and the coldest man that has ever been born, that woman would still be colder than the man. Due to her lack of heat, supposedly, a female never fully develops. That is, it never reaches its full human potential. So let's pause here and recall our thematic emphasis on the category of the human here. So an absence of heat accounts for the fact that women are softer than men, have less muscles than men, are smaller than men. This idea about women's imperfection pertained to sex organs as well. Medieval Western thinkers viewed the vagina as an inverted penis. In other words, due to her lack of heat, a woman's sex organ was unable to fully develop and make it outside the body. You can imagine how the wrong-headed idea of the vagina as an inverted penis prompted all sorts of wrong-headed ideas about female anatomy. This notion, moreover, persisted well into the Renaissance. But perhaps the most sensational way in which medieval science contributed to misogyny was on the subject of menstruation. Thanks to their lack of heat, women were supposedly wetter than men, were thought to have a lot of holes, and they were notably leaky. They menstruated, according to medieval science, because they lacked the heat to fully cook blood in their bodies and had to purge the residue blood each month via menstruation. Nothing grossed out medieval thinkers, most of whom were monks or priests, than menstrual blood. Here again is Isidore of Seville. From contact with this blood, fruits fail to germinate. Grape must go sour, plants die, trees lose their fruit, metal is corroded with rust, and bronze objects go black. Any dogs which consume it contract rabies. All right, let's recap. Not only did medieval European thinkers align femininity with passivity, matter, and the body, but also they viewed women's bodies as insufficient, indeed deformed and monstrous and disgusting. Now let's return to the prologue of The Miller's Tale and that key passage in which Robin the Miller offers his philosophy of marital bliss to Oswald the Reeve. I have a wife parday as well as thou, yet null die, for the oxen in me plew, talk upon me more than enough, as daemon of meself that I were on. I will believe well that I am none. An husband shall not ben inquisitive of God's privité, nor of his wife. So hae my funde God is foison there, of the remnant needeth not inquire. Remember, the key Middle English word privité refers both to divine mysteries and a person's sex organs. Considering how medieval misogyny worked, the Miller is doing something fabulously outrageous here. He states that a husband should not inquire into, that is, investigate, try to find out God's secrets, nor those of his wife. There's a pun going on here in privité. The Miller is referring here, of course, to what a woman does with her body, and more precisely, a particular body part. It is the case, of course, that what a woman did with her privité was, in a sense, unknowable. While when a baby was born, it was always clear who the mother is, no one could ever be positive who was the dad. Here, the Miller says that one shouldn't pry into or question what a woman does with her genitalia, in the same way that a good Christian man shouldn't try to understand the ways of God. As we've seen, women, along with peasants, were denigrated or put down in Chaucer's culture for their physicality. Like Eve with her apple, all women were attacked for their desiring, hungry bodies. They were viewed as subhuman. They were viewed as deformed men, monstrous, animalistic, gross, disgusting, and so on. But here the Miller rejects such thinking, as he puts a sexually active woman in the same category as God. The manner in which the Miller blasphemously and really quite wonderfully elevates a woman's private parts and their unknowability to the level of God's in the prologue to his tale gives us a hint at its gender politics. Keep this in mind as you go on to read the tale.